Monday evening, everybody. Welcome back to another video, and this is my long and overdue video for the 18 movies, that I watched in October. So, mostly horror, of course, and there is a documentary mixed in here as well. And a reported sequel, I guess. But the majority of these movies are horror. And a few of them are vampire movies. So let's go ahead and get started because I have a lot of ground to make up. The first movie I had the pleasure of watching. It wasn't pleasurable to me. Was Joker Folie à Deux or Joker 2. What even was this movie? So, this is a movie that slightly continues Joker's story, but it's a courtroom drama and a musical, and it's very forgettable. This movie was bad. I didn't care for this thing at all, so even Lady Gaga does not save this movie. It was a major disappointment, and I wonder myself why it was even made. So, if you want my full thoughts on this movie, I do have a review on the channel. And I go into a lot of detail. So that was the first movie I watched, Joker Folie à Deux. The next movie I watched was Salem's Lot 2024. Yeah. But as I was saying, we got a Salem's Lot remake that came to Max. And this is based off of Stephen King's second novel. And this is his vision on vampires. So, very popular story. It's about Ben Mears, which is a writer who comes back to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot, and he is investigating mysterious disappearances of the townsfolk. But a new antique buyer comes into the town named Straker, and he is hiding a secret. He is keeping Kurt Barlow with him, and Kurt Barlow is a vampire, and he's behind all of the disappearances. This has the iconic scene of the boy at the window where he's just scratching it, and he's just begging his little brother to let him in. It's a very creepy miniseries, and this remake, though it leaves out a lot because it's so short, it's still pretty effective once all the vampire stuff comes in. I mean, I really do like the drive-in finale. That's probably the best part of this entire movie. But it was a pretty solid remake. I know a lot of people aren't really talking about it, but I actually kind of liked it. That was Salem's Lot 2024. Next was probably my most anticipated movie of last month, Terrifier 3. Classic Christmas slasher. And this continues Art the Clown's maniacal atrocities, and he is Art Claus now. So he literally goes on the hunt to like brutalize innocent people. And this movie is probably one of the goriest slashers I've ever seen. It's almost at the point of Terrifier 2, but there are some very gnarly deaths in here. The shower scene, wee doggy, that is messed up. And it's by far the best part of this movie. So, it also continues Sienna and Jonathan's stories, where Jonathan is now in college and he has nothing to do with like Art the Clown. But once Sienna sees Art the Clown bomb a mall, it all comes back together. So, very solid sequel. I cannot wait for the fourth one. I have no idea how they're going to do it, but the way this movie ended was so open-ended. I'm definitely waiting for a fourth one. So, you get my full thoughts on my review. And that's a nearly 15-minute long video. So, if you want more thoughts on Terrifier 3, go check out that video. But moving on, I have John Carpenter's Vampires, which is arguably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, vampire movies of all time. This is a good one. This stars James Woods as Jim Crow, and he is like the elite vampire hunter. So, one day, after him and his team take out a nest of vampires, they go party at a motel, but Valak is on the hunt, and he just slashes his whole team. But he infects a girl, and it's up to James Woods and Daniel Baldwin to get this girl to safety before she turns. Well, the girl does turn, and it ain't pretty. But this acts as like a Western horror movie. This is an awesome movie and very underrated in John Carpenter's catalog. So, have a review out for this one as well. The next movie I watched was Smile 2. I didn't bother going back to like the original as I did with Joker Folie à Deux or Terrifier 1 or 2. So you'll see a bunch of sequels and not the original movies on this list. But anyway, Smile 2 picks up after the events of the original, where Kyle Gallner makes an appearance and he ultimately succumbs to like the curse and he gets nailed in the very beginning. Fast forward probably about like a couple of years, you meet Sky Riley, which is a very popular pop singer, and she goes through like the loss of her boyfriend. So she's on top of the world, but one of her friends from high school calls her over, and he's starting to get hallucinations, and the demon or whatever takes over him and causes him to smile. And then you saw it in the trailer where he just ravages himself with like the barbell. And that's when the whole curse comes upon Sky Riley. Whoa. A very anxiety filled film where you're following Sky Riley and her descent into madness. And this thing has a very gnarly but predictable ending where the smile demon just overtakes her. And you see this thing in full form, and it is gnarly as hell. But I really did enjoy this movie. It's a worthy sequel to one of the biggest surprises of the last couple years. That was Smile 2. Next is a slight break from horror. This one was a very special movie that I watched. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. And this is a documentary about the life and death of Christopher Reeve. So, this just dealt with his stardom in Superman and Hollywood, his married life, his kids, his comradeship with Robin Williams and so many other people. And then it goes into his horrific accident where he was left paralyzed for 9 years. So, the way he got paralyzed was he actually fell off of a horse and broke his neck, nearly getting decapitated. This was a hard movie to watch, and there were a couple times where I pretty much shed some tears. It's a very important documentary that everybody should at least watch once. And it's probably one of my favorite movies of the year. I know I don't watch documentaries that much, but this one, hit me hard. Very, very good documentary. That was Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Next, rewatch of The Shining. Yeah, the first Stephen King that I've watched in a long time. But no need to show the introduction here. It's just the Torrance family going to the Overlook Hotel. The Overlook Hotel is haunted, and Jack Torrance is the caretaker, and he slowly descends into madness. Very creepy movie, and don't go to 237 or run into them Grady twins. Iconic movie. I don't need to talk about this. That was The Shining. Followed by those three. So we have Blade 1998, and this was reportedly the first R-rated superhero Marvel movie. Spawn would have been the year before, so that was technically one of the first R-rated movies. But I'm almost thinking about Barbed Wire as well. But this is the first R-rated Marvel movie. There we go. So, this stars Wesley Snipes as Blade, the Daywalker, and he just ravages vampires and fights to survive his infection. So he's half human, half vampire. But you have Deacon Frost as the villain, played by Stephen Dorff, and he is probably one of the best of the trilogy. So, solid movie, and probably one of my favorite vampire-ish movies. Yes, this does count as a vampire movie. And Wesley Snipes is awesome in here. Of course, he got a resurgence with his cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, which made me super excited to watch this trilogy. And I'm hoping that they just make Blade 4 and call it a day. So, that was Blade, 1998. Moving on, Blade 2. And this is a sequel that is bigger, better, and bloodier. This is a very gory movie. And you have like a more interesting villain race in here called the Reapers, where they have like a slit in their chin and their whole mouth goes like this, and then like some weird thing just comes out of their neck and just sucks the blood out of their victims. This is a very awesome sequel and one of the best superhero sequels of all time. Blade 2. Blade Trinity, not so much. But I do have a guilty pleasure with this movie. They brought in Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds. Jessica Biel is Whistler's daughter, and Ryan Reynolds is Hannibal King, which used to be a vampire, but now he works with Blade to hunt down this posse of vampires led by Parker Posey and Triple H, of all people. And this posse of vampires actually awakened Dracula. Yeah, this is technically Blade versus Dracula. Dominic Purcell does not sell the Dracula look, but this is a very entertaining but bad movie. I mean, it is very goofy and over the top, but it is not iconic as the first two. And plus, Wesley Snipes had a lot of problems on set, and nobody wanted to work with him. So, all that just kind of killed the franchise. And we are slowly waiting for a new reboot or possible legacy sequel. But as I said, with him being in Deadpool and Wolverine, it kind of gives me hope that they will make a Blade 4. But this is the end of the Blade trilogy as we know it for now. Blade Trinity. Next, Venom: The Last Dance. And holy crap, I almost forgot that I even saw this. So, I didn't do a Venom rewatch because why. And this one was a mess. This was supposed to be the concluding chapter, and it almost feels very open ended. Did Venom sort of survive, or was he gone? But this brings Eddie Brock and Venom to kind of like an Area 51 of sorts, and they're being hunted down by this general that wants to put a stop to like the symbiote authority or whatever it is. Oh yeah, and you sort of get a villain. What villain? Probably the dumbest way to introduce a big bad in a major superhero movie. Null was null and void in this movie. So instead, you're following a road trip, a dance number featuring ABBA, and a lackluster ending. All in a Venom film. And no Spider-Man. What are we even doing with this franchise? But I haven't been a fan of this whole Spider-Man-less franchise at all. But I would say the only movies that I would consider watching would be the Venom trilogy. Morbius and Madam Web, not so much. So I have a little bit of faith and Kraven the Hunter coming out next month. Hopefully that's decent. But after that, I'm checking out with this franchise. They ought to just make Kraven the Hunter the last one. Because this is obviously not going to lead into the Sinister Six, if you will. And there's hardly any mention of Spider-Man in any of these movies. Except Madam Web. And they can't even name the frickin' kid. Rant over. But Venom The Last Dance was fine. But it's hard for me to rewatch these movies. Because they're not really all that good. But moving on from there, I have From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Texas Blood Money. And this was a sort of sequel to the original. And this is about like a group of, I guess they're like diamond smugglers. And they're trying to like pull off this job in Texas. But it goes sideways when vampires come into the mix. This one was okay, but highly forgettable. Moving right along from there, From Dusk Till Dawn 3, The Hangman's Daughter. And this one is a tonal shift compared to the other two. This is a Western prequel to the original, where it literally introduces Santanico Pandemonium and her rise to fame at the Titty Twisters. So you get that throughout this entire movie, and there is a very big clue here. So I enjoyed these two, but they are not as iconic as the first one. I mean, they're direct-to-video sequels, so there are diminishing returns. But moving on from there, yet another two movies that are direct-to-video sequels to a reimagining of a very popular Universal movie monster. I have Dracula 2 Ascension, and this is Dracula 2002, but released in 2003. So this is a sequel to Dracula 2000, and this released in 2003. There we go. Stay with me on that. But this one was pretty decent, but very forgettable. The only thing interesting about this movie was this priest who got infected by a vampire, and he's slowly turning. But you just get the campiness of Dracula 2000, and I believe in this one they're like in a morgue, and they're just keeping Dracula chained up until he gets out and feeds on everybody. So, pretty solid, but very forgettable. Then you have Dracula 3 Legacy, and this is full circle for the priest, and they're like in a foreign country, and it's just bringing back the love interest to Jason Patric before she turns, but it's way too late, and our priest is turning as well. Well, it turns out the priest is next in line for Dracula. So, this one was decent, but I think I definitely preferred Dracula 2000 to these other two. Dracula 2000 is actually pretty dope, but that was Dracula 3 Legacy. Next is a vampire movie that I watched for the very first time this year. The Lost Boys from 1987 or 88. One of them years. But this movie has been on my radar ever since I got into horror. For some reason, I never watched this movie growing up. And I gotta tell you, slapping myself because this is totally my type of movie. This has a family moving to California to live with like their grandpa, and the teenager gets infatuated with this woman, and turns out the woman is with the group of vampires led by Kiefer Sutherland and Alex Winter. So one day they turn Jason Patric into one of them. So he is slowly becoming one of the Lost Boys, and it's up to Corey Haim and the Frog Brothers to bring him back to being a human. The lead vampire really surprised me in this one. I did not see it coming, but if you know, you know. But I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I definitely want to watch it again and again. So that was The Lost Boys. And I ended the month on Halloween, and I decided to do a dual review of Fright Night 1985 and Fright Night 2011. So I'm just going to talk about both of these right now. So 1985 and 2011 are very similar, but 1985 has that campy 80s tone to it, and 2011 plays it a little bit more serious and a little bit more gorier, and it just stars Charlie Brewster, and he's afraid that his next door neighbor may be a vampire. So in the original, Chris Sarandon is Jerry Dandridge, and in the remake, it's Colin Farrell. So it's up to Charlie Brewster to try and find help from Peter Vincent, which in the original, he is a horror TV host. In the remake, he is a magician. So, this is a very awesome original and remake vampire movie. It's so much fun and very over the top. And I love the original and remake equally. So, I have a dual review that I release as my Halloween special. Go check it out now. But other than that, that is all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And tomorrow I'm going to bring in my review on Heretic, which I saw on Friday. And I might actually go see The Best Christmas Pageant Ever tomorrow as well. And I might have a review for that tomorrow. But on Thursday, I'm going to go see Red One, which is definitely a movie that I'm looking forward to this month. And I'm also working on my first vlog of the month. I'm almost done with my second book, but I still have one more book to go. So I'm like nowhere near done with the first vlog. But I will bring that to you by the weekend. But that's all I got for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Adios. Peace.